Welcome to Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerantz. We're joined today by Kathryn Barger. She is a nominee for a seat on the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. You're entering the home stretch, no doubt. I want to speak with you about a county measure on the ballot at the same time you're on the ballot. It's known as R2 or Measure M, the extension of the transportation sales tax from back in 2008. Talk to us about that measure. Are you in support?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. I was not in support of the measure that lost last year. It just failed by a little.
Right.
Part of that reason is because it was bureaucracy telling all of the county what they felt they needed. It was the top to the bottom.
And it's interesting you mentioned that because some have argued that the reason that that measure lost, I believe it was J, was because your district specifically was not well treated in the process.
And it hasn't been well treated as it
Right.
relates to these funds coming through Metro. And that's why, I felt it was necessary to go out and meet with the local COGs, the Council of Governments, that represent the areas, the town councils, and find out what the needs in the community are, and really look at a regional approach to transportation, but also look at what the needs are of each area. And they did that. And it came back, and it's, I believe, a tax that is going to be, for generations to come, a benefit. And what's unique about this is there is no sunset. So what does that mean, and why is that important? That's important because if you look at transportation systems like BART up in San Francisco or even in Washington, D.C., they don't have any maintenance dollars, and their systems are falling apart. We built in that so that over the long period of time, our transportation system is going to be state of the art.
So as I understand it, there's not going to be an increase in the sales tax because if Measure M passes, it extends an existing sales tax.
And it adds a half cent.
Okay. So I want to get a sense from you, though. You are out and about in very significant portions of this county. What are you hearing about Measure M? I think about your areas: Antelope Valley, San Gabriel Valley, San Fernando Valley.
It's a mixed bag, but I can tell you overall, I think the frustration is that from mistakes made in the past by the MTA board by not allocating the proper resources, you've got a lot of people saying it's about time. So there's frustration in that what took so long, but they recognize that we have corrected that, and this is in a lockbox for generations to come, and the priorities are there, and so it's a hard pill for them to swallow, but they realize that it's for the greater good.
And let's talk about what's happened this year. Just this year, the Expo line was extended to the west side. The Gold line was extended farther out in the San Gabriel Valley. I mean, one could argue that Measure R, I don't want to take a position, but it seems to be working. I mean, we're seeing the dollars put to use.
It did work, but there are those that would argue that the Gold line, which is, goes along in the San Gabriel Valley, East San Gabriel Valley, could have been out to the San Bernardino County line with the goal going to Ontario if the money had been accelerated. It was a constant battle. I mean, I have to tell you that to get the Gold line built, we put together a joint powers authority with the cities and that are lining it. It was a fight. It was not an easy lift for Supervisor Antonovich, and I take my hat off to Supervisor Antonovich and the leaders out there that said we deserve our fair share. So while we can give credit to Measure R, there was a lot of fighting going on to make sure that the dollars were spent there.
I want to ask about this ballot specifically. In addition to seeing Kathryn Barger's name on the ballot, as well as Measure M, there are going to be other taxing measures on the ballot. Prop 30 extension, not a sales tax, but on the wealthiest, the cigarette tax, the school bond, Measure M. Are you concerned that maybe there's going to be some tax hangover with so many revenue measures on the ballot?
Let's take the cigarette tax and set that aside. That is something where people can choose to purchase cigarettes. That's not a necessity. So I do support that. I feel that if people want to smoke, they should be willing to pay whatever it takes, and that tax to me is a non-issue. The parks tax now
in this county,
and I have a lot of mixed emotions about it, and I'll tell you why. Because like you do in your household when you set up priorities of how you want to spend your money, I think we, or I at least, am setting up priorities about where I think the taxing should take place. And I am very much a proponent of open space. I hike. I'm very much a park advocate, but I don't know that the timing is good for this. The polls that were done prior to putting that transportation tax on showed that it would not cancel each other out. I don't know. We'll see. I think that if you look at all the propositions on there, and I was just watching the news this morning that said this is going to be one of the largest state books that have been sent out ever. People are going to get fatigued.
We also know that in LA City, and I believe your district includes parts of LA City,
parts of the San Fernando Valley, Chatsworth,
will be Proposition H, which is a tax to fund homeless services, a bond. The county isn't having a homeless. They were going to. They are not going to.
Well, and that was a debate. I mean, the good news is that the board as a whole agreed that we need to do more and we need to address this issue. And we put together a study that I'm really proud of, because the first thing it identified is how do we keep people from becoming homeless? Because once they get on the street, the cost goes up, both from a financial as well as from an emotional. We put together our priorities. What we're looking at doing is finding out where are we spending the money, how can we redirect that money. For example, the mentally ill. We all know that the majority of the people out on the street that are homeless have some sort of mental health issue. Right now, if law enforcement picks them up, they take them into the emergency room for observation. It's called a 5150, danger to self or others. We're setting up a system where we're going to have urgent care centers dedicated to mental health issues. It's a win-win because, number one, they'll be able to triage and link to services and determine whether that individual actually does need hospitalization, or if there's something that we can do within our system to help them with their issues.
I must ask, though, right now one could argue LA County is in crisis as it relates to homelessness. The numbers have been staggering. We've seen these increases. We're approaching 50,000 homeless people, which is a number we've never seen. Are we seeing some movement the other way? Tell us.
The good news. You're absolutely right. This is a problem, and it's interesting because I just read an article out of a paper up in Portland, Oregon, and they're having the exact same problem. This is a crisis, I think, throughout our country. Having said that, we are having successes, and that's one of the things. Before we even go out and ask people for more money, what we need to do is put our house in order in terms of how we're spending those services. And I believe that doing these urgent care is going to be able to redirect dollars over. But number two, we need to say what we've done and what we're doing that's working, because we set aside over $100 million toward this issue about a little over a year ago. The number of veteran homeless have gone down.
And let's talk about that. I'm so glad you brought it up. It is undeniable that veterans' homelessness is dropping in this county. We just cannot deny it. I mean, it's a huge success story. And the city is experiencing the same. San Diego County is experiencing the same. How can we transfer the success of veterans' homeless decreases to the general population?
And we can. And I'll tell you, you look at what the one common denominator of the success was housing. Housing
first.
Housing first. And affordable housing, sustainable. And that's what we've done with these veterans programs. We've really ramped up our effort to partner with nonprofits, with faith-based, and said, you know, we're good at providing the services. We will partner with you and with HUD. And HUD has been fantastic. To the credit of the federal program, HUD has stepped up to the plate as well, so we can do more.
You'll come back?
Oh, happy back.
She is Kathryn Barger. She is a nominee for the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors election November 7th? 8th?
Oh, 8th.
8th on Brad Palmer. It's local edition.